Hello everyone, this is Wilson again with another video. This week we're going to be talking about unordered lists, also order lists, and links as well. And at the end, we're going to be talking about how we combine all these topics to create menu items and menus in general. So you can combine all these topics and all these concepts and all these elements, and then you can create menus. So let's start like from the very basic. On the right, you can see my unordered lists, and on the left, you can see how it displays on the browser. So here you can see a very basic unordered lists, also known as bullet points. And the cool thing about these unordered lists, they have a parent. So the unordered list is the parent element. And then within this element, you can have several, as many as you want, list items. Now, the cool thing about the list items is that you can insert and have block elements and basically almost any element you want. For example, I'm just going to delete this just to show you as an example. Within this this list item, I can have, for example, hello world. So I can have text, so accept texts. But again, if I bring the other code back, you can see that there's actually a paragraph here. And this paragraph contains a link. So again, you can have, you can have block elements with these lists items. And people get really creative, like some of them, like, some people like use them for insert images and that kind of stuff. That's kind of like more advanced, and you really need to know how to use positioning and that kind of stuff to do that kind of like more advanced techniques. But in reality, again, these are just list items. And again, as you can see, list items can have block elements within them. That's completely fine. Okay. Now, one thing that I always notice when I work with these items is most of the time people forget to close the list items. So just make sure that you do that. If you don't close the list item, nothing is going to happen, but then you're going to get an error. Like, for example, in this case, if I save this, I get an error that it's not closed. In this case, I got another error, which is an error here in the code. But I should, if I save this, should get an error. Maybe I didn't get it this time, but that it becomes a problem. So just make sure that you always close your list items. Then you will have also what is called order lists, where basically the number lists that you can create. Also, the cool thing about this is you can you create the order lists, and then you also create list items within them. And again, these also support blocks of texts, for example, or like block elements. Now, the cool thing about order lists is you can start your order list anytime you want, or like any number you want. So for example, as you can see here, I have 1, 2, and 3. Then I close that ordered list, and then I start a new paragraph or a new section which starts with a H2, and then I'm forced right now to start a number 4. But if I remove this attribute my list item is going to start in 1, 2, and 3. So that's why sometimes I'll need to use this start attribute. And the value that you're going to pass to this attribute is basically the number that you want to start with. Again, really cool. Another thing that I want to show you is you can combine, as you can see before, you can combine them. You can combine an unordered list, and you have your list item here, but you can also have an ordered list inside a list item. Again, it supports block elements, so this is completely valid. So I can have my order list here, and then I have my list items here. Then I close the parent list item, and then I start a new line, basically a new list item, and then I can start again from number 4. So again, just keep that in mind. You can start combining these things. I can also combine, if you look at the code here, I can also combine the unordered list, and I have a list item, and also I can have another unordered list inside that item. So I can nest them as many times as you want. Now, like kind of like a rule of thumb or a good practice is don't try to nest them so many times. Like that's a bad practice. Like if you have 2 levels or 3 levels, that's fine, but after that, like you want to really rethink what are you actually doing with with those order lists and how they can be organized in a way that makes more sense. Okay, so then when we come here, I'm going to explain to you another concept here. So we can also use like lower alpha numbers if we want. And to do that, we have to use CSS. So I'm going to just move this here a little bit so it gets a little bit better organized. So I'm going to start my CSS here at the top, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to do organized list that has a lower alpha class, and I'm going to provide the value of list, or like the property is list style type. And here I can change the value. So for example, I can do Armenian if I want, like as an example. I can do other values such as like circle, decimal, decimal leading to 0, discs, lower alpha. So let's do lower alpha, and it's A, B, C, right? I can also do lower Latin, A, B, C. I can also do lower Roman, and it's going to start 1, 2, 3. So again, I can pass those values again. So I can do upper, for example, upper Roman if I want, and now I have on the left, I have more, I have upper Roman as numbers. So just keep that in mind that you can do that. So I'm just gonna go lower alpha, which that's the look that I was looking for. So then you can see, like for example, that for example, you can get a 1 and then ABC. That's how you start creating those kind of like more like a more index type of look. So also another thing that I want to show you here, if I scroll to the bottom, here we have definitions lists, and we saw these definition lists, or at least it was mentioned in a previous chapter. And basically, again, like definition lists are meant to be paired with some definition, like some title, in this case client, and then a definition, a DD, basically a definition itself. Now also the definition itself also supports block elements. So technically these paragraph here could become a paragraph element, right? Now, if you notice, it looks a little bit funny because the paragraph element has a margin top and a margin bottom. So, adds up with the definition list itself. So obviously you will need some CSS to clean that. But the point being here is you can have a definition with a paragraph inside and then more elements. You can have an image if you want, or that kind of stuff. So again, like the definition element supports these block element, in this case the paragraph element, but you can support any, or you can insert any other block element if you need to. Other things that you can do with unordered lists, you can, if you want, you can change the style of the bullets. So I have a class here of circles, so I'm gonna go back here and I'm gonna do circle. So ul.circle. So any ul element that has a class of circle, do this, right? So you can, again, you can change the circle style. So I do list style and I'm gonna do type, and here I'm gonna do circle. So when I do circle here, you can see that these bullet points change to a circle, which is, I think, is pretty cool. So you can change the circles if you want, or if you need to. Another thing that you can do here, for example, here you can insert images if you want, or you can replace these bullets with images. And that used to be a thing. It's not, I haven't seen it in more modern design, but it's still a possibility if you really want to do that, like just to give it like a little bit of like a personalization to your bullet points. Like that's definitely something that you can do. So again, I'm gonna do a UL and I'm gonna just real quick go down, and I have a class of star here. I'm gonna go back real quick, star, and then the property that we're gonna change here is gonna be list style image. And here we have to pass a URL. In this case, again, remember that the URLs are based on the CSS. In this case, the CSS and the HTML are together. So we can just go to images, and here we can go and look for our starter. And here you have now these bullet points have a star here, which is really great. Also remember another thing that you can do. You can format these bullet points in any way you want using padding and margin. So you can change the format if you want. So let's do this. Let's format the title. So I'm using UL formatted, right? Then I'm gonna do a padding left of 1M, and you can see right now that padding gets basically resetted, and it goes back to, let me close this for a second, kind of aligns here. But again, if I remove this just for a second, my bullet points are all the way in. And sometimes you want to do that. You want to kind of align your bullet points with your elements themselves. So you can actually do that if you want. And also you can remember, if you use relational selectors. In this case, I can do UL formatted and then the li element. So basically what I'm saying here, oh sorry, I have a typo here. So here what I'm saying is any list item that is a child of an unordered list that has a class of formatted, apply this format. So in this case, I'm going to add a padding left, and it's going to be a 0.25 m. And you can see that the bullet points move a little bit. So maybe if I do a 1 m, they move more. But in this case, I'm just going to keep it 125 m. And also I am going to do a padding bottom because I want to get more separation. And remember, like it's a technique to always provide either margin or padding to the bottom of an element, so then you don't have to collapse the paddings or the margins. So in this case, I'm gonna do also 120, like 0.25 m, and now you can see that the bullet points here are a little bit more separated. So this is how you work with unordered lists, ordered lists, and list items.